Hello and welcome to Overcoming RevOps Challenges. This is where we break down the solutions to real-world revenue operations problems, brought to you by the Revenue Operations Alliance. Today we're joined by Jordan Shaheen, Head of Revenue Strategy and Operations at Candid. Welcome, Jordan.
Thank you so much for having me. Absolute delight to be here.
Cool. So to start us off, would you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your career so far?
Yeah, happy to. So my name's Jordan Shaheen, Head of Revenue Strategy and Operations at Candid, which is a clear aligner medtech company. I've been with them for about almost 6 years come January in a variety of different roles. Started out in customer operations, have spent time building out headquarters, various headquarters, have spent time building out corporate entity structures for insurance networks. And for the last 2 years, about 2.5 years, I've worked on creating what is now our business to business product, which has become our entire business's product as of 2021. So super exciting things there. Right now, I work and kind of run multi-faceted team, part of which is focused on day-to-day sales operations, the other part focused on strategy and different incremental revenue driving initiatives. So that's kind of what my weeks look like in my career journey so far.
Yeah, cool. So today we're talking about the big product change that happened at your organization. Could you tell us more about that challenge?
Yeah, so starting as a company back in 2017, Candid was selling direct to consumers. So we had a medical product that we were providing directly to end users, the people who are going through clear aligner treatment. We were marketing to the actual customers. So we had retail stores, we had online presence, multiple different ways to get started with us. But at the end of the day, we were trying to capture customers who would go through treatment with us. And then that transaction essentially reached its end. At the beginning of the pandemic, actually right before, I worked with one of our co-founders on what it would be like if we started getting into the business-to-business world. What if we started selling clear aligner treatment, all of our technology to doctors who could then provide it to their patients in a way that is more geographically and economically accessible. Treatment outcomes are better in many ways, a whole host of benefits. And we found a big uptake and a big desire in the doctor market to offer our product. And so we really started growing that part of the business. It started out with myself and one of the co-founders. We added more and more to that team as it grew. And then midway through the pandemic, we realized that there was more future with the business-to-business product than the direct-to-consumer product, obviously partially impacted by the pandemic itself and people being closed off at home. Because of that, we actually shifted the entire company from a direct-to-consumer to a business-to-business product. Obviously, that comes with a whole host of challenges, given that you have an entire sales force that is retail-oriented, that is patient-oriented, an entire org and support, insurance, sales. Everything is oriented direct to consumer. And so not only are you changing the product itself, which has all of the technical product engineering, medical aspects of it, but you also then have to change really an entire organization's focus. And that comes with, a whole host of obstacles, fun and good obstacles, but definitely things that you have to solve as you switch over.
Yeah, what was the biggest impact that change had on team structure and maybe sales structure?
Yeah, I think that is, to your point, one of the largest impacts is you have a sales team that is now oriented towards selling directly to doctors, which means you have to be very, very clinically knowledgeable. You have to be in offices. You have to be very professional and inspiring of confidence from medical professionals who, in theory, if they purchase your product and start working with it, are offering a medical treatment, a year-long medical treatment at that, to their patients. They have to know that you're offering something that is good, something that is effective, and something that makes sense for their individual practice. Because of that, we tried to shift some of our direct-to-consumer salespeople over to business salespeople, some of whom were absolutely amazing at it, and some of whom it was just outside of what they were comfortable with and what they were used to, and those reps tended to fall off. So we really had to transition from a large retail team and remote sales team to in-person territory reps, much more like, many different medical equipment and med tech companies. And so we had to start hiring based on a new profile, based on new characteristics. And as a part of that, we had to think about, how do you take something that is very geographically spread out as far as actual autonomy goes. You had different studios, different retail locations, pretty much operating as standalone units and just reporting in metrics. Now we had to have a territory rep who is in charge of that entire area and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing each day, that they're bringing in revenue. Obviously, this comes to a much longer relationship because this is sustainable revenue, recurring revenue. Whereas in the retail space, you get the transaction and then you move on to the next person and try and get the transaction. There's no real hope that they're going to come back and do it again, because if they are, it means we're doing something wrong. So, there it's a single transaction. Now, this is an ongoing transaction. And in the best of cases, it hockey sticks grows, and that we keep getting more and more and more and more cases from these providers as they become comfortable. So it's really a longer term sales cycle, a longer term relationship. And because of that, it takes a very specific relationship building oriented salesperson who can really hone their craft. Because of that, obviously, we've changed the structure, we've changed the size of the team, we've changed the geographic locations of the team, as well as a whole host of other supporting parts of the org.
Yeah, so that sounds like a lot of the solution was in restructuring your sales team and like your overall organization. Is there any other like sort of RevOps like processes or stuff like that really had to change, or like your entire strategy almost?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to the change, we didn't have a formal revenue operations team. We had what we called basically retail operations, and then some of our remote sales operations. Most of it was focused on online digital marketing, was focused on in-store hourly associate making, individual sales to patients who walked in the door. And so that was very niche teams that were doing one thing very well, but very specifically. In this new world, we had to work to create what is now revenue operations that has encompassed all kinds of things, from marketing operations, sales operations, enablement operations, revenue strategy, traditional RevOps, and actually build an entire vertical that is more connected with the entire organization. And so less internal within an area of the company and more the webbing that holds the company together in many ways, and takes different pieces of information from one group to the other and serves as that nice liaison. Because of that, we had to build a team that has a lot of generalists on it who can operate on a variety of projects, who can execute on a variety of projects, and who are willing, if they don't know something, to go learn it and figure out how to operationalize it. So right now we have a much broader team. We have a larger revenue operations team than the company has had at any point in time. I've built that out over the past couple of years and continuing to grow it. Absolutely love the team that I have. And so we've really taken what were kind of disparate parts of the org that had some operational function and put it into a true revenue strategy and operations team that now supports most of the organization and has our hands in almost any initiative or any enablement feature that's happening at the company.
Yeah, and like you mentioned enablement, I assume lots and lots of retraining, especially for your sales rep who are moving across.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now we actually recently hired a new VP of sales who's amazing. She will over time take on some of the enablement operations management to really incorporate it in our go-to-market strategy. To date, we've had that, to your point, somewhat difficult at moments transition to train reps, not only on sales cycles, on how to be charismatic, how to follow up, how to handle objections, but also clinically, right? These people are going in and not only being at the face of our product, but the face of our clinical excellence. And so many times they have to be both clinical professionals and sales professionals simultaneously. And that takes a whole heck of a lot of training. So we've done that, whether they came in with a dental background or not, we can make them great salespeople and great territory managers. We're also we have implemented things like sales development reps, some inside sales reps virtually, and some remote account executives to create a pretty comprehensive approach to the country's sales and the country's practice and partner organizations. And so it really has been a relatively slow development, as we did it very meticulously along the way, but training has been key at every step. Whether it was the day we made the switch whether it's now, even with experts, up leveling is so important to maintaining a successful sales team that also doesn't have a lot of turnover. Because the more growth we give people, the more they feel like they're learning, the more they feel like they're improving their skill set. So it makes them happier, makes them more effective, which obviously drives up their commission, which they love. And from our perspective, it really helps foster solid rep and doctor relationships, which brings up our revenue as a whole over time.
Yeah. And then is there any like one specific like project or like process that really like made that switch in your product and sales cycle like succeed?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that there was one specific thing that made it happen, because I think there's a whole variety of things, especially when you're changing an entire sales org, an entire product org, all of the other supporting orgs, support, insurance, sales, all of that. There really are a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak. But I think everything comes down to sales and doctor experience. So the initiative that some of our traditional day-to-day, non-sales operations folks who are doing operations as far as our funnel, as far as our product, all of that, really were crucial in making sure that the entire infrastructure, aside from go-to-market, was able to sustain and support a new business-to-business model. They did an amazing job. And then I think on the go-to-market side, our biggest initiative was, how do you take fewer number of sales reps to drive way more revenue than we've ever driven before? And as a part of that, we had to rethink how training works. We had to rethink how workflow works. And so all of those real sales operations pieces, plus the revenue strategy of those operations, comes into play. So that I think is really what's been the biggest piece of our growth and crucial to it. And now we're making incremental changes, right? We have the infrastructure. Now we have to figure out how to make them better than they are currently, and then continue to do that over time. And so I think we're in that scaling phase. And that's very exciting, but definitely different than our initial build from the ground up phase, which we hopefully are passing in time.
Yeah, it sounds like a huge undertaking. So like congrats on making it work so smoothly. What advice would you give to someone maybe in a similar situation, maybe not quite as extreme, but like going through a product shift or going through like a change in customer base, similar to what you've done?
Yeah, I think I've had really amazing mentors over the years, our chief experience officer being one of them. And I think you can never go wrong focusing on the end user, whether that be the sales rep or that be the actual customer, making sure that they have flawless experiences. In many ways, we actually think of our sales reps and sales team as customers, because we have to make sure that they can do their job easily, that they can do their job effectively, and do their job in a way that makes them excited to come to work every day. The more clicks they have, the more things they have to enter, the more obstacles and hurdles they have, the more it's going to hit their morale. And that's going to affect the end user customer doctor as well. So I think you'll never go wrong figuring out how to make your sales reps happy and how to make your end customers and users, happy, whether that be doctors, organizations, whatever you're selling to. Start there and work back. A lot of times people focus on the revenue strategy, the budget, all of those things, and then work down. In many cases like that, you will forget about the customer's needs, and it's a lot harder to push something that everybody doesn't really like in the end, but strategically might make sense, as opposed to figuring out how do we operate on the front lines effectively, and then backtrack and figure out how to match that to a budget, larger company strategies, initiatives, KPIs, all of that.
Yeah, I've seen a lot recently about customer-centric revenue operations and sort of mapping out the customer journey for those sort of like processes to make sense for customers. Is that something that like you really did or like advocate for?
100%. I think especially in revenue operations, it's easy to take the approach of this will work perfect in a vacuum. I have tons of ideas that if I had robots for both customers and sales reps, I could do that would, in theory, infinitely increase our revenue. But the point is, we don't have robots. Our customers aren't robots. Our sales reps aren't robots. So we have to think about their human experience. And because of that, we've made so many different changes from a retail space, which we could pretty much map out every moment of a patient's experience in one of our retail locations, how they're introduced, the script that we use, monitoring the sales process, how effective the sales reps are in each individual transaction, et cetera, that obviously doesn't really happen in the same way in a B2B sales situation where you have to enable your sales reps to be very successful sellers in whatever dynamic way they need to be in a given customer's office. And because of that, we have had to really ensure that they have the tools they need, that they have the information they need, and the kind of cultural excitement to hit the field. And because of that, if you don't start with their experience, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, and you're going to get frustrated because things won't work as you roll them out. And so not only does it frustrate the reps, it'll frustrate you, the org, and it just leads to a lot of unnecessary friction for yourself.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, happy to join, and always happy to chat with you and anyone who's interested. Really a lot of great things going on there in the revenue operations world, and especially with the Revenue Operations Alliance.
Thanks for watching Overcoming RevOps Challenges. If you want to keep uncovering more revenue operations knowledge from the experts, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you never miss a new upload. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll see you in the next video, where we dive deeper into the world of revenue operations.